This is Todber Manor, a venue I fish regularly as a Korda coach, and I'll be showing you exactly how I tackle a 48-hour session in the winter, spring, summer and the autumn. Even though it's not a huge lake, it has a lot of different areas that the fish like to hold up in over the course of a year. In the summer, I might be creating big feeding areas to draw the carp in, and in the winter, I could be fishing the open water with single hook baits and nicking bites. There are busy day ticket waters just like Todber all over the country, so the tips and tricks I use throughout this section will definitely be helpful to you wherever you happen to fish. So without further ado, let's begin the year. Right, what am I looking for at this time of the year? Well, it has been very, very cold. It's February, down to sort of -2s and 3s at night. But that big boy up there in the sky is going to play a massive difference in where these fish are going to hold. I've been walking around, looking for areas where the sun's been lighting the water up, and hopefully the fish will be in them areas mooching around. But also on the flip side to that, if I'm on the back of an island or the back of a reed where the sun's not getting, that could be an area to sort of walk past. I don't think the fish are going to be there. They're going to be using that to warm up, get active and hopefully get on the feed as well. I've opted for an area that's not too deep, not too shallow. It's bang in the centre of the lake, and going from previous experience as well on other lakes, that's exactly where the carp hold up in, central areas. I know it's not a big lake, but you'll get a few fish in them areas, so it's a good vantage point to start off with. If they start showing over the evening or in the night, I better hear them and then move onto them. So if I get to the lake at first light, managed to chat to a few anglers and they're saying to me that bite time's been real strict, you know, between 9 and 10. I'd probably want to get my rods out for 9 or 10. If they're telling me it's in the afternoon and the evening, I know I've got a bit more time to walk around and really make that decision work for me. So yeah, try and find out what's been going on, what bite times are, and then that will determine how much time I'll spend walking around. If I've got time, then spend time. You know, each swim, give it 5 or 10 minutes. I'm not expecting fish to be jumping out, leaping everywhere. Sometimes they do, but sometimes you've got to work off your gut. If it feels right, sometimes it is right. You know, you could be on the back of the wind and you generally feel warmer, then spend a couple of hours in there. If you get a few liners or something, you can work from there. But yeah, spend your time and make the right decision. Right, now that I'm super happy with my swim choice, it's really important I find a nice hard bottom to present my rigs onto. Now, I could probably have 50, 60 casts out there and I will get a drop on every cast. It's very much a clay line based lake, but amongst that clay area, you'll always find some real hard areas, and they're the spots you want to be on. They're the spots the fish that feed regularly on there, so if we can locate them, they will definitely put more fish on the bank. Now, the hole bow I'm using, I've got a very stiff Longbow X45 rod, perfect for the situation. I've got SLR braid, it's the one I always use, so I'm not going to change anything just for this session. And I've got a nice armour cord leader to take any shock out the cast. As you can see, I'm just using a probe lead. I don't need a marker float on there. I'm just got into the swim. I don't want to spook any fish that are potentially out there. I can nick a few quick bites on. So just a lead, and I better pick up any hard areas out there with just that. If I was looking to do some markering for a future session, definitely get the marker out there, find some depths, and that will help me out in the future sessions. But for now, that's going to help me out. Once I've found that spot, the distance sticks come into play. I'll be going around them, finding how far I'm fishing out, and putting that straight into my notes on the phone. So midnight, if I get a few bites, I can get back out there straight away, putting more fish on the bank. Once I had the distance marked up at 11 wraps, I got my rigs ready and then clipped them up at the same distance using the sticks.
Right, the sun's about to set behind me. I'm gonna get this rod on the dance floor. Quick brief of my rig, short little 2-foot leg core, leg clip setup, anti-tangle sleeve, bit of IQ on a combi, nice sharp Kamakura hook, a balanced wafter and a 2-bait stringer. Let's see what that brings. just sinking the line, nice and straight. We've got no wind now as well, so this line lay's going to be absolutely spot on. This contour fluoro really hugs the bottom well, which hopefully won't spook the fish. But that cast was perfect, that lead went down absolutely mint. Let's see what happens from there. So I've got 48 hours. I'm going to try and nick a few bites, and I'm going to do exactly that, just trying to nick bites. So I'm not going to be going in with heaps of boilies, heaps of particle, anything like that. Starting off with just little wafters, maybe little pop-ups, little 2 or 3 bait stringers, just trying to nick bites, trying to work out what the swim's doing, what the fish are doing, try and nick a few bites that way. Right, the light is fading on a crisp winter's day. That temperature's dropped a lot in a couple of hours, you know, but that sun starts going down, you really do feel it. But I'm confident, it's down to them now, but I'm going to be keeping a real close ear out, walking down the bank, see if I can hear any fish in the middle of the night. And if I do, if it's consistent, I may move down there in the night if needs be. If not, I'll have a look again in the morning. But it only takes one fish this time of year to show to give away a bigger picture. You know, there could be 3 or 4 or even a lot more there. So, but yeah, I'm feeling confident. It's looking good, it's cold, but that is the fun of winter fishing. So we'll see what happens. If I don't catch you in the night, I will catch you in the morning. Well, we're into the first one. And trust me, it's cold. I must admit, I didn't expect too much going into the night. I thought it'd be sort of daytime bites, but I will take it. So this was on the little link wafter with just literally a 2 bait stringer. I've literally put no bait out whatsoever, just trying to find the fish, nick a bite, and that's exactly what's happened. You start introducing too much bait this time of the year, you could quite easily ruin your swim and make it a lot longer before you get that first bite. I'll do exactly the same again next cast. Simple 2 bait stringer, little gooed up wafter. And yeah, if we can nick a few more bites, then maybe we can start building the swim with a little bit of bait. But at the minute, this is a bonus. Get in. Oh. You can see by the frost on that, it's a cold one. But we're off to a flyer. And I'm not sure what's colder, the fish or my hands, but we've got one. Absolutely nailed. So I'm going to repeat that process exactly the same, get it back on the spot. And I'm sure where there's one this time of year, there'll be a lot more. So we could be in for an eventful night. Right, before I get this rod back out on the dance floor, make sure this hook is super tacky sharp. These Kamakuras at the packet are deadly sharp, so it's important that it goes out exactly the way it did. And that has got another bite in it all day long. So change the hook bait, get it wrapped back up again, little 2 bait stringer, back out there super quick.
Now I know it's a lot of effort at night, especially in the depths of winter, but that's what makes it even more important. The carp are sluggish and will probably stick to a single area. Now I've nicked a bite, I can be confident that I'll get another.
Lovely.
So getting the rig in the exact same spot is crucial.
As you can probably hear and see, the wind has got right up. Maybe that stirred things on, you know. When it's flat calm sometimes, it doesn't really get them moving around. And this time of the morning, if you nick one, there's normally definitely a few more about. It could be just a feeding spell, so we've got to take advantage of this one. This one hits the net, get the rod straight back out there, hopefully nick another one. Good one, 2 more foot. There she goes. Whew. That's colder than that wind, but we've got a fish. Happy days. So I'm going to make sure the fish is nice and safe when transferred it to the mat. So under the net, let her swim into there. Go on, girl.
actually is lovely and safe. The hook can't get caught in the net. That's when mostly that mouth damage happens, you know, when you're lifting the fish out the water in the net, the hook can get caught up in the mesh, and that's when it starts ripping their mouths and stuff. We don't want that to happen. So doing this eliminates all of that. Right, here is this morning's prize. He's only a small one, but he's a start. And that's all we need to sort of work off of. So yeah, same tactics as yesterday. 2 bait stringers, little wafter. I've introduced no bait at all, so I'm still trying to nick bites and work out what's going on in my swim. So yeah, first one, get the rod back out in the water, hopefully nick a couple more, and yeah, hopefully a bigger one as well. But I'll take this one for now. Well, just as I was saying about the whole feeding times being short, I didn't even get the other rod wrapped up and this one's gone. So it really goes to show you that, you know, when the bite time comes, you've got to be bang on it. Luckily, on this spot, I've got 2 rods. So I managed to nick 2 bites instead of 1. It seems to have been, since that wind's got up, it stirred them up a little bit. It was flat calm this morning, quite foggy. And I've been in situations before when it's like that. And it's slow. Get a little bit of wind, little change, and they get their heads down. It's another reason why I have 2 nets set up. You never know what can happen, especially at Todber. Touch. Right, we're starting to build a little hit now, so while that one stays in the net, I'm going to get that other rod back on the money, ASAP. And hopefully turn 2 into 3. So I'm just sinking the line. So the wind's got up now, I don't want my big bow of line going around, so get the rod down quickly, line under the water. This contouring 12 pounds sinks beautifully anyway, really quickly. And that way I get a nice line laid back to me the spot. I'm picking up a little bit of undertow now once the rods are out, so if that continues, I may put a back lead on. But at the minute, it's not too bad. And I know that last 20 foot's nailed to the deck, which is really important.
Now that we've had a few bites, I can be confident in the spot. It can prove effective to experiment with hook baits. I'm still using a little 2 bait stringer, but I'm thinking maybe something a bit more visual might help to pick out a bigger fish. I'm drilling out a link bottom bait, squirting in some bumbleberry goo, then plugging it up with a mainline zigger to give it a bit more visual attraction as well as a slight buoyancy. Nothing occurred for the final night. The temperatures dropped to truly Arctic conditions and the fish obviously weren't having it. Until the next morning.
I've got a feeling this one feels alright. Nice to end the session on a 20 pounder. It's that same sort of bite time though, you know, mid-morning, 9-10 o'clock, just as the sun gets up. Warms that water up a little bit. Yesterday I had 2 bites within 20 minutes of the first one, so it'd be interesting if that happens again this morning. It's so typical this time of year, you know, you camp for 22, 23 hours and you get all your bites within an hour window. I reckon she's quite a cold fish, she ain't done a lot. So with the winter bite times being quite short at the minute, it's really important. I've got several rigs with baits and stringers ready to go. So when that fish hits the net, unhook it quickly, change my rig, and I'm back out there fishing again while it's happening. I'm good to go. Let's get it clipped. We're on the money again. This one goes to show that location in winter really is key. I've had 4 bites, they've all been on the same rod. Getting them rigs that you're confident in, the bait you're confident in, nice sharp hook, back on that spot each time will definitely get you more of these fish in the net. So this is the rig I use for 90% of my sort of wafter fishing. Got a short length of lead core. I don't need sort of 8-9 foot. You know, the contour main line's going to help pin my line down to the bottom as well. So I don't need too much lead core, and it's a bit safer as well. I've got that in the clay/gravel because the bottom here is that sort of colour as well, so it's matching into that. Same as the tail rubber and the lead clip. The lead I'm using is a 2.5 ounce flat pair. I'm not dropping leads, so I don't need a big 4 ounce lead dragging its weight around, potentially pulling my hook out. And then underneath there, I've got a size 8 quick change swivel. Now you can see I've just got a little bit of silicone over that, just to hold that loop into place, and I can quickly change that when I need to. And that just slips over nice and neat and gives me plenty of movement on that swivel. I'm not going to be getting too many tangles because I'm using a little 2-bait stringer, and that's going to help that hook bait and the lead separate in the cast. This is a 15-pound IQ hook link. It's acting like a little bit of a boom. It's not too stiff, but it will help definitely kick away with that wafter. Nice and straight. A little bit of putty covering up my Albright knot in there, and a Supernatural in 18-pound. Get loads of flexibility, so when the fish does suck it in, it's going to be going in their mouths, and that size 4, pow, nail them. So the hook I'm using here is a size 4 wide gape Kamakuru. And at this time of the year, when the bites are really sort of finicky and they're not feeding as hard, that extra sharpness will get you so many more bites. I've got a quite large length of small size shrink tube in there. That's just helping open up the gape of my hook. And again, it's all to do with the hooking properties, and that definitely gives me that bottom lip most times. I've got a nice D there, and the reason why I've got the D, when I'm fishing balanced wafters, I want that D to give me that movement. That hook bait's got loads of free movement. It's going to give me a really nice presentation. I've been using sort of balanced wafters out of the pot. They're great. In this case, I like to get a freezer bait. This is the Link 1 in 16mm. Bore the middle out and plug that with a bit of foam, a pop-up roilie that's been whittled down, or in this case, one of the little ziggers. That's been gooed up as well, giving loads of flavour and a little bit of colour as well that catch their eye. So that's the rig I use. Again, if I wanted to change rigs to something completely different, take that off, and I can clip something completely different on and be fishing within seconds. But this is my favoured rig at this time of the year.
To tie this rig, I start by making a D with some 15-pound IQ2 using a 4-turn whipping knot. Next, I take some 18-pound Supernatural, which forms a soft section of the rig. I then tie it knotless knot style, snipping off the hair, as this is what the D part of the rig is forming. I slide a micro ring swivel onto a D before threading it through the eye and blobbing with a lighter. For the stiff boom section of the rig, I use 15-pound IQ2, this time tying it on to the Supernatural section using an Albright knot. To do this, fold a kink in the IQ2, making a loop. Thread the Supernatural through the loop, then fold in the section of Supernatural around IQ 6 times, then 4 times down and back through the loop before tightening up. I want the boom section around 2 inches. I then thread on a 1.5 inch section of small shrink tubing. This goes slightly over the eye of the hook and is steamed to create a slight kink right at the end to give it that ultra aggressive hooking angle. At the end of the boom section, I tie a figure of 8 loop knot, making it around 5 inches in total. I finish the rig off with a little bit of dark matter putty over the knot to neaten it all up, as well as help pin everything to the deck.
Being consistently bang on that hard area, you know, if fish do cruise over the top of it, you're going to nick a bite, and that's exactly what's happened here. Lovely smooth clutches on these emblems. You know, in these shallow water, they're very sort of jolty little runs, and the clutch is bang on it every time. So the fish is cutting a little bit to the right now, so I'll bring the rod just slightly to the left. Keeping the rod very low to the water. It's so much easier to turn fish when you've got your rod like this, and they tend to come in like a dog on the lead again. I normally use the back wind in this situation. Just as he comes over the net, just a couple of little back winds, and over he goes. Happy days.
Winter doesn't have to be grueling. If you spend time getting your location right by building a decent picture of the lake and where the fish might be holding up, the winter starts becoming a lot more fun.
I've had a lovely session here at Todber. There's some fantastic fish to go at. Bring on the spring.
What a difference a few months can make. Spring is finally here, the sun is out, beaming onto the water, and the fish are starting to respond to the warmer weather. As always, I've done a few laps and there are fish showing pretty much everywhere, but definitely more focused in the corners up against the reeds. Spring not only starts energising the carp, but also other anglers, and it's a lot busier this time of the year at Todber, so getting location right first time is important because you might not have the opportunity to move so freely. Take your time, don't rush into a swim, and be smart about your approach.
Well, I've had a good look around and there's a lot of fish in and amongst the reeds and the margins. So it'd be rude not to throw a few solid bags right up in them reeds. I know I'm going to get a perfect presentation from solid bags and I'll be fishing every single time. Now there's also a lot of cunning fish just under the surface. They think they can get away with it up there sunning themselves, so they've got another thing coming. I've got a few zigs and a few floaters to whack at them, and hopefully we'll nick a few quick bites. But I'm going to keep an open mind, which is a really, really important point. You know, spring, they can almost do anything. They could be on the bottom, they could be mid-water, they could be on the surface. So we need to constantly be looking, constantly changing, and hopefully nick a few more extra bites out of it.
Casting within inches of a reed bed is an important skill to master when targeting these spring carp. I first try and get as close as I can, see where it lands, and judge whether I need to add a few more feet onto the clip. Cast again, repeat the process until you're bang on the money. Perfect. Now reel it in and get it round the sticks so you can hit the mark every single time. This will catch you more carp, guaranteed. You might not be able to rely on your eyes during the dead of night, so it's your ears that become your most useful tool. I had actually heard a few fish boshing out in open water a few swims down, and seeing as no one was there, I packed up and moved on to them. Being adaptive is key in spring, so I changed to an IQD rig with the prime purpose of being able to cast singles onto showing fish extremely quickly. It paid off.
Decent common, that. Boom. Back of the net. Get in.
With the fish safely in the net, I clipped on a new rig, topped it off with some bumbleberry goo and got it back out there. It couldn't have been out there 5 minutes and I was into another fish on the same rod.
And it's important that we're really adaptive and respond to whatever they do. So if they start showing by the islands, we've got to get rigs on them islands. If they start showing the reeds, get rigs on there. And also if we see them on the surface, zigs and floaters. So it's really important I keep my eyes open and react to whatever situation happens in front of me. This one here came to a little snowman rig, IQD rig, and this was cast as showing fish. It didn't take long to go.
This one was an upper double, but the first fish spun the scales around as £24. A great start to the session.
Well, what a fantastic way to start the spring masterclass. A mint, scale perfect, £24 common. I tell you what, thank God spring's here. They've become a lot more active. Right, what are we doing? Apart from getting blown away from Hurricane Bob.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Oh, sorry, mate.
is going on? So why is it important to be on the fish? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can't catch what's not in front of you. I know they're moving around a lot more at this time of the year. That doesn't mean just because you're off the fish, you're going to be on them in 20 minutes time. You've got to go and look for them. The lads that are at the front of their swims, all weathers, all times of the day, will catch a lot more fish than a lad that's sitting in his bivvy on his iPad watching YouTube. You know, it's really, really important you're at the front of the swim looking for fish. And if an opportunity arises, get on them and you will definitely catch more.
I spotted a fish very close to the island, so I quickly made up a solid bag and got it bang on the money. Solid bags are great up-type to features, as I wanted the fish totally focused on a single spot. I wanted its head down and a quick bite, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, that just goes to show about being responsive to what's going on out there. You know, I see a little tail flick, literally, definitely a carp, right next to the island, and I mean like super tight. So I went to my solid bag locker, got one absolutely bang on the money, and it has probably been out there 2 minutes. Middle of the day, it's like 20 degrees, feels a bit more like summer than it does spring, but just goes to show you they're right up on the shelf, get all the naturals out of the reeds and all the rushes. And this one come across my little wafter, and now he's got a big size 6 kamakura in his bottom jaw. So I've loaded up with a fluorocarbon mainline, it's called Contour. Line lay to me is so important, you know. I don't want a tight bowstring line going straight to the island, cutting my fish off. I want happy fish out there, fish that don't know they're getting fished for. If they bump into my line, they may spook their mates. And that means no extra fish on the bank for me. So I'll try and get my line nailed to the bottom as possible. That way fish don't know they're getting fished for, and that's more fish for me in the back of the net. Boom! Back of the net. Get in. Yes! That is a cheese. That is a cheese. Buzzing. Well, how about that for some midday action? See a fish roll. I didn't even see it roll, to be fair, just the tail come out. About 3 foot from the margins on the island. Very shallow water. Got a solid bag first time, bang on the money. It literally took 2 or 3 minutes for this one to go. As you saw earlier on, I was using solid bags. That was mainly because I was slamming up tight against the islands when it was nice and warm. You know, them fish were circling the island looking for food, and my solid bag nicked that 23 pounder, so it definitely worked. But the last few hours, I've had a few bream. So that's telling me that potentially now that the sun's gone down, the carp have done one, and the bream have moved in, taking full advantage of that pellets in the bag. So I've pulled off of that. I've gone onto some wafter hook baits. Hopefully them changes will bring me a few carp in the night.
And just after sunrise, I managed to get a bite. A little bit of warmth from the water is all the fish need to wake up, get moving, and get their heads down.
Well, that's how we like to start the mornings. A nice 21-pound bar of gold. The nights are so slow, but it's not really that surprising, you know. It's sort of 20 degrees in the daytime, 4s and 5 at nights, and it's just making the fishing hard work. But as soon as that sun comes up, please get on the feed. Fingers crossed, we can nick a few more bites.
I've had to stay very open-minded this trip. With the sun beaming down on the water, the fish have moved towards the island, and I've found the best way to catch them is using solid bags. How I've set this up is using a 1 foot ready tied lead core section, which I remove the tar rubber from. I take out the plastic stem from the 3 ounce lead and replace it with a shock leader sleeve. Because the shot leader sleeve is one piece, it doesn't wiggle free when I'm packing and twisting the bag, so I get a very tight bag, which is really important. The hook link is 4 inches of 18-pound supernatural braid, which is extremely supple and short, so when the fish attacks the bag, everything just flies into its mouth and creates that opportunity for a great hook hold. I actually do a 2-turn whipping knot on the shank of the size 6 Kamakuru wide gape before I knotless knot it as usual. This is to trap the hair in the perfect place for the hook to always flip over in the mouth. There's a tiny piece of silicone tubing over the eye to also aid the effect. I've swapped between lots of different hook baits to narrow down the exact combo that's working on the day. That's my island and margin rig, but as the fish move off into open water, when the temperature drops, I use a different approach.
This is the rig that's been doing the majority of the bites for me. Very, very similar to the one I used in winter, but this one is IQ straight through. The reason behind that? Well, the fish now, they're feeding a lot harder, and it's not just the carp that are feeding. You've got the roach, the bream, the catfish. All that disturbance on the bottom is going to make my rig, no matter what I do, get blown around the bottom. So it's so important my rig resets. Now, on the business end, on this one here, I've got a 14mm wafter, but I've been changing my hook baits a lot regularly, you know, just to try and find what works on the day. Some bigger, some smaller, different colours, different buoyancies. Important that. Business end. Size 6 wide cape Kamakuru. That has been IQ'd to some 15-pound IQ2. On the eye there, you'll see a small bit of shrink tubing. That basically makes sure my IQ leaves exactly where I want it to on the eye, but also opens the gape of the hook, which definitely helps with hook holds. Figure of 8 loop on the end there. That has just been attached to a quick change lead clip. I've got a 3-ounce lead and a very simple tail rubber over the top of it to hold it all into place. And that is no tubing, no lead core, just fluoro straight through, so I get a lovely line lay.
The rigs are bang on, but it would be pointless if I wasn't constantly watching the water for fish showing. I briefly saw one top, got a rig on it, and it was away.
And as I'm playing this one now, I can see a couple on the far bank, so we may get an opportunity here where we can get a few bites this afternoon. The sun's just started to drop over the back of the trees. It's still very warm, but the fish are obviously happy now. They want to feed. And lovely mirror as well. Tell you what, mate, that's not too bad. Let's get this one in the net. I've just got a fish in the net and I can see loads of fish working that island. So I've got the other rod in quickly. I'm gonna get a rig bang on where they are. See if we can get a bite.
2 minutes later,
well, seeing that fish definitely paid off. We got one in the net, and that replacement rod I got over there, ASAP, has gone straight away. You've got to be on your toes this time of the year, you know. You see one fish, it's a major giveaway. I thought it was a stinker, but it's a good fish.
and a few minutes later, my final rod roared into action. That's 3 bites on the bounce, and that's because I was watching the water and casting singles onto showing fish. And now for the final fish, which was the second in a triple hit, and what a beautiful fish it was.
Another one slipping up to my ever faithful D-rig. Absolute banger, and what a way to end the session. Next time you see me, I reckon these guys will have a good spawn and bang up some grub.
That's the sound we like to hear in summer. Mate, that absolutely roared. There was no bleeps though, it was just gone. Well, looks a nice £20 common to kick things off. We'll take that. Welcome to the summer chapter. Right, summer. This is all about getting them feeding, getting them competing, racking up the numbers and hopefully catching a few big ones along the way, you know. Right, so what's changed? Our baiting approach slightly changed. I'm using a lot more bait this time of the year. They've had a good spawn, they're up for a good feed. A lot more smaller baits as well. I want to keep them feeding for longer, so when the opportunity comes around, there's loads of bait out there. They can all get competing. Hopefully, we can get a few more of these and a few bigger ones along the way. But we'll see how that goes.
Okay, hold up. Let's rewind to the start and talk about arguably the most important part of my 48-hour summer session, baiting. As I said, the fish have spawned out, but also the warmer water has boosted metabolism, so they are fully on the munch. Seeing as the fish are pretty much purely focused on looking for food, you can essentially create a rocking swim from scratch by optimising this baiting approach. My mix is full of the usual suspects: boilies, tiger nuts, mainline particle and pulse mix, which includes a link flavour additive and lots of juice from the activated tiger mix to create a big cloud when it hits the water. Don't get put off by the amount of bait you're going to have to put into the swim. What we're doing is essentially creating a feature out of bait. The fish are hungry, they'll move on to food and clean it up really quickly. The way we're going to get consistent bites is by constantly topping up the swim and not letting the fish move away onto someone else's area. Be greedy in the summer and huge hits can be yours for the taking.
Well, he might not be the biggest todber fish in the world, but he's a sign of good things to come. You know, that baited spot now is rocking. There's a few fish showing over the top of it. I'm getting plenty of liners. So I reckon we could be in for an eventful night. Hopefully a big one and all. Let's get this one back, get a few more spots out there and keep that spot rocking, you know, that's the important thing now. Keep them competing for the food and they'll soon jump on the end of the hooks.
I had managed to get one fish last night off the baited area, an upper double mirror, and not long after first light, I was in again.
Trust me, this isn't going to be a pig if it's a carp. Oh yeah, that's good fish. They're the ones you want. Wait. This will be a nip one pearl one. Take that all day long. Get in.
We're in the height of summer now and the carp can be super fickle. If you're not topping up your swim with bait immediately after getting the fish in the net, then they'll move on somewhere else where they can get fed. Top up the swim, get your rig back on the money, then have a look at your prize.
There you go, £23, 12 ounces. But the baited spot is rocking now. This fish was passing all the bait over the mat, you know. Crushed tigers all over the mat, the cells getting passed through it. So yeah, that baited spot's rocking. A few smaller fish along the way, but it doesn't take long for the big girls to start searching it out and getting on it.
I actually felt a few fish on the way down on that last cast as well, so they're definitely rooting around, getting confident. And I've got a feeling there might be a few more of these, but let's see.
There we go. Topping the swim up with 3 or 4 spods has paid off. Another bite very quickly after the last one.
It's another good fish, boys. Come on, baby. Get in there. What we got this time? That's another good 20. Doesn't take long before these good 20-pounders to realise they're missing out on a good bit of food and get on the bait and push the smaller ones off. That's a good second good 20-pounder in 10-15 minutes. So yeah, the spot's rocking. It's quite rewarding at the same time as well, you know, because you've created that atmosphere, you've created that feeding environment, and I think it'll only get better as well. Well, not long after that 23-pounder was released, this 26-pounder paid the baited spot a little visit. So that's given me a lot of confidence now. The fish are definitely on that spot. They're going through the bait, and I'm getting the rewards. And you never know, the way things are going, there could be a 30 on the cards, but let's get a few more spawns out there, keep that feeding environment going, and hopefully a few more of these will slip up along the way. So once in the swim yesterday, because I knew I was going to be fishing sort of 2 different areas, and I've only got the 1 spot rod on me, I decided to clip up against the island but not too tight, just off it, on the shelf where I can get a good sort of group of fish hopefully feeding in not too shallow of a water. It came back at about 12 wraps. I then used them same wraps to fish in the open water. There's not a lot out there in the open water, there's no bars and plateaus. It was just a lot easier for when I want to spot to one spot, I can then go back to the other one as well without having to re-wrap, wasting a lot of time and potentially costing you fish as well. So yeah, I got the rods out, I've done about 10 spoms on each spot, little 10mm banoffee wafter with a little bit of buttercorn goo on it, little free bait stringer just to stop any tangles because it's a small hook bait, small hook, I want that sort of counterbalance to stop any tangles. Now the first few bites they came against the island as the sun was in the sky. It was very, very hot yesterday and the first few fish come off there. Now they soon moved off that spot and then hit my left hand rod, which is in open water. I kept the spoms going in on both spots as I was catching, and even though as I wasn't catching on the middle, I kept the bait going in, building that bait up so when the fish did finally get on the spot, there was a nice bit of bait there to hold them. It's really important, as soon as that fish hits the net, my third rod's set up, it's back on the spot, there's three or four spoms going back out there, and that's how you get that sort of like feeding mentality and you build up a good head of fish at this time of year. It's not a great time of year to sort of be just single hook baits trying to nick a bite. You know, you really can get them feeding through bait and build up a hit that way.
I stay consistent with my approach for the remainder of the day, hoping for a real big one. But when they look like this, how can I really complain?
Oh, that is definitely the prettiest one we've had so far today. Big old scales on the girl.
I finished the day off with a couple more scaly ones, which made me confident going into the last night. But unfortunately, the rod stayed quiet. I've been using lots of particle in my spod mix this session, and the rig I've opted for is proving very successful for that approach.
As you can see, I'm using a very small hook bait. This is a 12mm banoffee wafter that's been soaked in some buttercorn goo. Now I'm using a supple hair there, and how I've done that is I've got this 18-pound supernatural braid, done a little whipping knot to the back of my long shank hook there, and that gives the bait plenty of movement when it's on the bottom. I'm using a size 8 long shank X there. Brilliant hook for when you're sort of fishing small hook baits, double fake corn and small hook baits like this. Very lightweight, just sits there lovely. I've then got some 15-pound IQ2, which has been simply knotless knotted to the shank of the hook 3 or 4 times, and
and that's been covered by some small shrink tubing. I've got about 1 inch of shrink tube in there. That helps open the gape of the hook up and really helps improve the hook holds as well. 1 inch or so down, I've got a small bit of putty, which is just helping the rig sit naturally on the bottom. At the other end, I've done a very simple figure of 8 loop, and that's going to simply clip on to my hybrid leg clip, which makes this rig very effective, but also very quick for when I'm getting bites in the summer. I want to quickly change rigs and get another one back on the money. With the session coming to a close, I'd say that our time has been pretty successful. Regular baiting and quick hit style fishing has proved to be a winner, and we even had time for one more bite.
We got it. Well, that's a nice way to end the session. Another good 20-pounder, and that spot now is absolutely rocking. The swim is alive. I'm getting liners, and more importantly, I'm putting fish in the back of the net. Bring on the autumn.
It's safe to say that autumn is probably every carp angler's favourite season. The fish are at their largest, they look their nicest, and because of the carpy weather, there's no excuse not to drink gallons of tea. But in all seriousness, I'm hoping to get amongst some of the real lumps at this time of the season. I've started, as I have every single session, with multiple laps to see if I can spot any fish. I saw some fish on the back of the wind and decided on fishing the point swim, but after a couple of hours, everything seemed dead. We've only got 48 hours, so I went for another walk round, only to find all the fish on the complete opposite end of the lake.
There's literally one swim left, and that's exactly where the carp are. They're not stupid, they know where there's no pressure. So I've got down there, I've introduced literally 2 single hook baits and just fished boilie over the top. At this time of the year, you know, the fish are really wanting to pack on the weight to get through winter, and this is when they're at their biggest as well. Going back a few months ago when we fished in the summer piece, maybe there's 5 or 10 30s. This time of the year, there could be anything like 30 30s in there. So they're plump, they're big, and this is the time of year where I want to catch them. Like I said, I'm introducing boilie only, 15mm cell, loads of smart liquid out on it, on top of it as well, and it's a single hook bait over the top. I'm going to keep introducing that bait, I'm going to keep ringing that dinner bell, and hopefully we can build this swim up, and let's see if we can get amongst some of these fish.
I felt everything was sitting perfect going into the first night, but unfortunately a piece of the puzzle was missing. The carp were definitely still out there, but when morning bite time came and went, with no action, I knew something had to change.
I've changed from a hybrid stiff to a slightly suppler fluorocarbon hook link, a 15-pound IQ. I've gone from a size 6 long shank X to a size 8 long shank X, with a little supple hair on that as well. Now the reason for the change is simple, you know, if you don't change, you don't find out. That little slight adjustment to the hook size or a slightly suppler fluorocarbon from the hybrid stiff, it's just like zig fishing. You know, you've got to find out how they're feeding on the day. If you don't try, you don't find out. So I'm sitting there confident still, which is important. I'm warm, I've got my woolly hat on, I've got my thermals, I've got my merino socks on, I'm not getting cold. I've got my waterproof jacket, because as you can see, it hasn't stopped raining, to be honest with you. I'm being proactive and I'm angling, and that is what it's all about. Well, we've finally got one. That has been a frustrating morning, you know. You think you should be getting bites and you're not. So you ring the changes, and the one change I didn't really think that would make a difference has, and that was literally adding a wrap onto my spot. I've been fishing at 10 wraps, bang on my bait, and I thought, I wonder if they're just sitting off the back of it and not really on it today. So literally made that change, 30 seconds, and we're in. Well, looks to be the first one of the autumn in the bag. Well, that has been a frustrating night, morning, mid-morning, but we finally got one, and yeah, just an extra wrap on the distance, you know, a rod length. 30 seconds later, bang. Just goes to show you, if you're not on the money, you're not going to get a bite. So both these rods now at 11 wraps rather than 10. Let's see if we can turn this one into several. Thank God for that. Well, here he is, first one, and that definitely took a lot longer than expected, but even when they're out there shying all over the shop, you've got to be on that dinner plate sometimes, and extending that rod to 11 wraps, maybe I found it. Maybe this month, this week, this day, they're not on the bait. So it's important now that I get both rods on the back of the spot, maybe ease off the bait a little bit as well, and see where that puts us. But I'm happy with this one. He's only a small one, but he gets the ball rolling, and that's the important bit. Well, it is very nice to get the first one underway. That's the most important one, you know. You get that one under your bag, you can go from there. And it just goes to show the little tweaks that I've made with my hook sizes, my rig length, rig material, adding... It's amazing, isn't it, you know? That extra wrap has made all the difference. Whether that is just the fish holding off the back of the spot or them not feeding hard on the spot, we'll soon find out. So I'm going to ease off the bait, get a couple of rods a little bit longer, and hopefully turn this into a bit of a Todber carvery. Go on, girl, all the way. There she is. And it's finally all starting to happen. Well, we better get that other rod wrapped up. It's the all important 11 wrap spot. See if we can get another one. Well, look at that one. He thinks he's a marlin, but I'll tell you what, he's absolutely beautiful, and I'm very happy with it. Fish number 2. I've got both them rods out at 11 wraps now. I've calmed the baiting down a little bit, so fingers crossed we will keep catching. I see on social media the other day, there's one in there that goes 35 pounds, very, very similar to this one here. Wouldn't that be nice? So I'm gonna get this one back and go for his bigger brother. Carp care, it is one of the most important, if not most important aspect of fishing. We want to see our fish in tip-top condition. Now, if we get a hook hold that needs treating, or we've lifted a scale, or we've had a little bit of abrasion from spawning, it's really important we treat that area. Now, new to the range, we've got the propolis and the ulcer swab. Now, all you simply need to do is dry off the affected area that needs cleaning. I get a dry towel, dab around that area, say for instance lifted scale, and add some ulcer swab. This will help disinfect and clean that area. Simply put a little bit on your finger, mask the area that needs cleaning. Once the area has been cleaned and disinfected with the ulcer swab, we now need to seal the area with the propolis. Simply, over the top of the ulcer swab, apply the propolis. A little bit of lake water will help seal that now, so when the fish goes back in the water, he's a fighting fit.
We're approaching the end of the second day now, and I'm happy the little changes I've made are now paying off. Although I'm keen to constantly try new things whilst on the bank, my core equipment hasn't changed much at all.
I've been using Contour for the whole of the season. It's a line that I use a hell of a lot of. It is very reliable. It sinks to the bottom very, very quickly. Fish are not bumping into my line then, spooking off, and my swim stays active as possible over the session. So normally with fluorocarbon I've been using a very slack line. I want that line pinned to the bottom, but I've been using it in conjunction with back leads. That way my line is really now to the deck. But you've got to remember, you don't want to be fishing a slack line in conjunction with back leads. So I've been fishing quite tight lines with my stow bobbins on for maximum sensitivity, and I know exactly what's going on then when a fish picks up my rig. Now I've been using my longbow X45 in 3-pound test curve throughout the season, and have been absolutely spot on for the job. I've had very few hook pulls due to the rod being very light and very sort of forgiving when the fish are sort of off bolting through that shallow water. The reels, I've been using the Dara Emblems, again, perfect for a budget reel. They really are spot on. I've had hardly any frap ups. The drag's very, very sensitive, so when they do go on their mad little runs, the drag is there, ready to rock, no stickiness. Perfect for the job. As you can see today, I am well wrapped up. Even though that sun's out, this wind is not very warm, so I'm very well layered up. Starting with my socks, you know, I've got some real good merino socks on. These will keep my feet warm, which is extremely important. If you've had cold feet before, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I've got my thermal underlay on as well, so it's really important that my base is absolutely warm. if I get cold, I am not going to fish to my 100% capability. So going back to winter, it's important about layering, waterproof and windproof as well, you know. That wind can be the main factor why you get cold. So this waterproof jacket doubles up as a good rain protector, but also a good wind protector as well. So in the summer, I've been using the cool range of clothing. The long sleeve t-shirts are absolutely perfect for that. Also my hat and my sunglasses. Being protected from the sun is very, very important. Keep them nasty sun rays out your eyes, you'll spot more fish and enjoy your session a lot more. So back to spring, it can be very unpredictable weather-wise. That sun can be very nice 1 minute, and then you get a rainstorm come through and you're all wet. So it's all about being prepared, having stuff in the van that you can quickly get on. Thermals, it can still be very, very cold in the mornings in spring, and along with the waterproofs, like I said, 1 minute it can be raining, so having them in the van and you're not getting caught on the hop is very important.
The bites dried up during the afternoon, but I kept watching for a sign, and after a fish topped by the island, I was ready with an ultra attractive PVA bag filled with squid goo, a couple of pouches of shells scattered over the top, and I was away within minutes.
Come in, boy. You know, it's that same old thing, location, location, location. Well, it's got me another bite, and this one doesn't feel too bad at all. So keeping the eyes in the water all the time, even when things ain't going right, is super important. You know, if I'd have missed that fish showing, I wouldn't have got a bag on it, I wouldn't be in. Nice chunky mirror, get in my net. Yes, there we go. Oh, that's the one we want. Well, there's absolutely no need for the water bucket for this one. This weather is relentless today, but look, I'm out here, I'm making the changes and getting the reward. And that's what it's all about when it's fishing tricky. A little solid bag slammed up against the island, bit of squid goo. It got this one's attention. And I think it's time to get it back, get that rod out, and I'm gonna get in the bivvy of a brew on, because I'm getting cold and wet now.
As quickly as the rain came, it disappeared, but fortunately for me, the carp didn't do the same, and I spent that last night on the lake hauling.
Right, I'm going to run you through a couple of the presentations that have done me bites this session. Now, when I moved into the swim from the point, it was pretty obvious there was lots of fish in the open water area. So I opted to fish both rods for them fish. Now, rig-wise that I chose, very simple sort of match the hatch rigs. Now, I was feeding sort of 15mm cell, and my hook bait was exactly that, a 15mm cell. Now, I started off with a size 6 long shank X, but then opted to change over to a size 8 because I wasn't getting any bites. I was making a few changes to see where I was. Now, the material I stayed with was a 15 pound IQ2, and you can see I've got a little supernatural supple hair there. This gives the bait plenty of free movement, so when the fish comes along, there's not too many alarm bells ringing. I've got some shrink tubing on there just to help open up that gape of the hook, give me maximum sort of hooking potential, and a little bit of putty there, just so I know that that rig's nailed in the bottom.
Now, I have caught fish from the island, and if you cast your mind back to spring, I was using solid bags. Well, it's the same now in autumn. I don't want a long hook link, potentially clipping leaves or branches on the way in, especially when I need to get super tight to the island margin. So a solid bag with everything tucked inside it is my preferred method. The rig is exactly the same as it was back in spring, a super sharp size 6 Kamakura wide gape, and this is topped off with a small pastel barrel wafter. With a generous squirt of squid goo to really hone the fish into the bag in this murky water, you've got yourself a winner.
Well, this year at Todber, we've had a lot of fun. Obviously, we started back in the winter, and the winters down here can be very, very harsh. But if you put yourself out there, there's plenty of rewards to have. Obviously, there could be days without fish showing. So it's all about sort of doing a lot of homework, a lot of research where previous captures have come from, and work it out from there. And when you do get down the lake, your eyes are like a hawk, you know. They may be showing during the nights, so you need to be up, listening, and prepared to move. But when you want them in the winter, you're generally on them, and they generally don't move around too much. So big hits can happen, but you've got to put yourself on them. So then that leads on to spring. Now spring, they're a lot more visual, you know, they're potentially up in the layers of the water, showing a lot more, cleaning themselves, and the fish are now spreading out as well. So it's a lot more easy to get on them, but you've also got to hold them as well. So that's when bait does come into play, high visuals as well. There's loads of little things you can do to put yourself ahead of the fish, paying attention to the wind, potentially being on the back of the wind. So there's a lot more to think about, but a lot more fish spread out. So you can definitely get yourself on them and reap the rewards. So this year, there was hours of no activity, then all of a sudden the fish rock up in front of your swim and you're there like a crazy person trying to get the most out of it. So it's all about being prepared, having your rigs ready, having your bait prepared, so when that opportunity does come, you're making hay while the sun shines and putting plenty of carp in the nets. Now in the summer, you've got loads of options, you know, you can really sort of play it into your hands, and that's exactly how I fished it. I used plenty of bait, plenty of particle, and tried to hold the fish. They're obviously a lot more active, they've had a good spawn, and they want a good munch as well. I was on the opposite end of the lake, fishing up to the island. I kept that spot going in, kept that bait going in, and the bites kept on flowing. But you can catch them on a whole array of tactics in the summer. You can stalk them out at the edge, you can get them on the surface, over depth zigs. It really is how you want to fish. I love fishing over bait. That's exactly the tactic I applied over there, and I had a good one. Now the autumn, it can be a funny old time of the year. You know, they've been pretty much battered all year now, and they want a little rest. And maybe sometimes they're not on the bait, and that's exactly what happened on this particular session. I thought they would be on the bait, to be honest with you, because the conditions have been absolutely spot on. But it noticed that the bites were not coming directly over the bait. I moved a couple of rods off the bait and got a couple of bites, but it didn't last too long. Noticed a few fish by the island, so it's very much an opportunist type of the year as well. Cut the solid bags over there, loads of squid goo on them, and I nicked the bites. But that's what it's all about throughout the times of the year. Keeping your eye on the ball, letting the lake tell you what to do, and working it out from there. Now you've probably noticed I've kept the cameraman busy while moving a lot. That is how I fish. I cannot sit in a swim when I'm watching the fish wash up the other end of the pond. You know, we've only got sometimes 24 or 48 hours fishing in a week or even a month. So it's so important that you use your time wisely, you know. Move if you have to, move in the middle of the night. I've been there, I've done that, you get the rewards, and when it does happen, that reward tastes a little bit sweeter as well because you've made it happen.